Welcome to the Wildflow podcast with me, Charlotte Pronto, certified cycle and feminine embodiment coach and shamanic womb guide. In this podcast, I'll share my wisdom and conversations with powerful change makers, thought leaders, and embodied teachers to invite you to live cyclically in flow with your menstrual cycle instead of fearing it, to heal menstrual shame and normalize womb wisdom and period positivity, and to step into your sovereign magnetic power to create and embody the change you desire to see in your world. Settle in to unleash your wild flow. Welcome back, beautifuls, to season 3 of the Wildflow podcast with me, Charlotte Pronto. I am so excited to be back. At this point of Ostara in the southern hemisphere, which is the traditional celebration of spring in the wheel of the year, based in the old Celtic traditions. And in the north, we have got Maiden. So Maiden is that point of autumn, journeying into autumn. And it feels here in spring just like such a beautiful energy of the sun shining so much more than it has done in a long time. Actually, we've had some really beautiful sunny days, blue skies. It's getting a little bit warmer. It's not quite as cold here, especially in the day. We've still got pretty crisp nights. The wind has been blowing, those spring winds spreading seeds around. The flowers are blossoming. It's super beautiful, and it just brings with it, for me personally, so much joy and positivity. And I'm right now in my inner summer. I'm on cycle day 19, just in my late inner summer, and the spring and the summer just feels so joyful in my body. I feel like I've got just a bubble of joy that can't be burst today. It feels really, really lovely. So today I'm sitting down to speak with you, to share this, to record the welcome back, the introduction to season 3 of Wildflow. So what's season 3 got in store? So I remember, if you've listened back to the very, very first podcast episode and the season 2 opener, I shared that I see each season of the podcast as having its own seasonal energy. So the very first season of Wildflow was like a winter, like a foundation, like a dreaming and a visioning and setting all of those roots and planting all of those seeds so that we've got that understanding of what this is all about, of what cycle awareness is, of what rites of passage are and womb wisdom, and why this is so important as something we need to reclaim and to start learning about for ourselves. The last season 2, I felt was like a spring. So those seeds were starting to bloom, and we were starting to go into the topics a little bit more, to start thinking about different ways that we can explore our cyclical nature, the different ways we can work with it, the different ways that our cyclicity shows up for us. And those ideas were expanding and blossoming. And now, season 3, this feels like a summer, and I'm so excited because I just feel like I'm really starting to look for bigger topics, deeper, juicier topics that we haven't covered yet, and to speak with beautiful guests who can share their wisdom and their insights and their experiences with us as well. And I want to take this really into the realms of embodied cycle wisdom, cycle awareness. And the mother for me just feels like that full expression, like her full ripeness is here. We've done 2 seasons, and I'm getting, I think, better at podcasting as well as we go. And I feel like we're just finding our flow and hitting our stride, and I'm excited to see what's going to come through. in this series. So I don't have it all mapped out. I don't have it all planned, and I always record as I go. And sometimes I'm prepared way in advance, and other times it's a real, oh, I don't have an episode to put out this week. What am I doing? And I'm just going to give myself full permission to go with the flow of this and go at my own body's pace for the rest of the year in this season. So this might be a shorter season as well, because I will be ending around Christmas time. So let's just drop in. Let's drop into our bodies. Drop in with me. Taking a breath into your body through your nose and pulling that awareness into your heart space. Letting go. With a sigh. And feeling the support of whatever you're sat on or lying on, if you are. Feeling it behind you, underneath you. Feeling your body so supported. And if you're not sitting or standing, if you're standing or walking or moving, just feel the earth beneath you wherever you connect with her. If you're driving, walking, running, whatever it is that you're doing while you're listening, hello to you, and thank you for being here with us, with me, for tuning in, for making this podcast epic. And I just love doing this. So breathing in. Breathing into your womb space on your next inhale. Receiving air medicine into your pelvis, into your hips. Feeling the muscles and fascia expanding and softening. Releasing any tensions held there. Breathing in to your bones and letting those bones be felt. Your sit bones. Your sacrum at the back. Your pubis at the front. Breathing into the sides, the pelvic bowl. Breathing into your pelvic floor. Softening here, softening your pelvic floor. Breathing into your womb, your ovaries, your yoni, your vulva. It's becoming aware of their presence, their aliveness. Noticing which cycle day you are on, if you have a menstrual cycle, how many days since your bleed began. If you don't have a menstrual cycle, what's the moon doing right now while you're listening to this? So today we are just past third quarter moon, moving towards the dark moon. Those last 3 days of the moon cycle. So we're about 5 days out from new moon. What's it doing when you're listening? What day of the month? What season? Where are you oriented in space and time and in your body? And just notice how you're feeling and what you need today. Now, whatever you landed on, I want you to gift that to yourself today, as soon as you can, without delay. Can you give it to yourself? Beautiful. Thank you for landing and dropping in with me. That feels good. It feels really good to me. My body wants stillness and wants to be grounded at this point in my cycle where I can feel quite untethered. I can feel quite ungrounded. So, I want to talk for the rest of this episode about honouring these seasonal points in the year, specifically Ostara. So this might not work for you depending on where you are in the world, which hemisphere you're in, but we have these seasonal points of Ostara coming up. Today, actually, is it today? Today and tomorrow. So over the next few days, we have got Ostara, and it's this point that the old people, the old Celtic people, they used to, and the pagan people, and many other people still do today, live in accordance with the earth and the earth cycle and all things natural cycle by noting these 8 points on the wheel of the year. So instead of breaking the year into 12 months, they break the year into 8 phases, and we have these 8 celebratory points around the year, and they really mark the sun's transit in our solar year. And it's so interesting when you start to look at what these celebrations are called and where they came from and where they line up, because you can see that these which predated the modern religions, you can see how many of the particularly Christian, but certainly in many different faiths, these religious celebrations actually fall really closely to these points in the year. For example, we've got Christmas, which is at the solstice point. So in the south, it's the summer solstice. In the north, it's the winter solstice. The solstice is either the longest or the shortest day of the year. And in the northern hemisphere, where Christmas originates, winter solstice is called Yule. And you've probably heard of Yule and Yule log. And then we have the summer solstice at the opposite point. So in the southern hemisphere right now, we are at this point of Ostara. And normally in the northern hemisphere, this would be 6 months away, and this would actually land at Easter. And if you think about Easter and Ostara, that's where the word Easter originates from. And Ostara was a goddess of fertility and new life and birthing. And this is where Easter comes from. So it's really interesting. And when we pay attention to, what's going on in our own location. So in the southern hemisphere, it's not Easter, but it's Ostara, because we are at that point of spring when we've got life bursting, blossoms blooming. The birds, which you can probably hear in the background of this recording, are just chirping and twittering nonstop. It's that time of babies being born and chicks hatching and all of those things. And the bees are out again. And it's an absolutely beautiful, beautiful time of year. And it's so wise when you start to think of these 8 points in the year, because they're not a month apart. They're actually about 6 or so, 7 weeks apart. And when I've been paying attention, is we reach one of these points in this Celtic Wheel of the year, and suddenly nature just changes. The month might not have changed. It could fall bang smack in the middle of the month, like right now. But nature knows. Nature is responding to the changes in light. So the other thing about Ostara is its equinox. So equal day and equal night. So this is the spring equinox. So we are halfway between the 2 solstices. And so the plants, for example, they know they have light receptors, just like animals do, just like humans do. And they know that hours of darkness are in balance with the hours of daytime, of the sun. And the plants and the animals and nature, all of nature responds. And I swear this is why I feel so chirpy particularly at this point in my cycle when I'd be normally just on this downhill dip. I can feel it, but I feel really buffered by the beauty of spring. So Ostara is a really beautiful point to come to notice balance. What's in balance in your life? Or what needs to be in balance? What are you balancing in terms of lightness and darkness within you and around you? What is it that you're experiencing that is growing as well with the light? You can think about this in terms of intentions for your year, for the season, for your for whatever cycle you're working with. What's growing? And spring is also the time of the maiden archetype, who, no matter what age you are, the maiden exists within all of us. She is us from between age 0 to about 25. So she goes through these really fundamental transitions, these experiences that really set her on the path of understanding the world, how the world works, who she is, how she interacts with the world, what's expected of her. She has puberty, she has her first bleed at menarche. She transitions into a cyclic, fertile woman. And she learns, she finds her independence. She learns about the world. She explores, she tries new things. The world is her oyster. And this is the season of Maiden in this spring. So tender new life. And this is a really beautiful thing to explore. And this is what I've been guiding a lot of the women who I work with privately as one-to-one coaching clients, but also in my program, Cycle Sorcery, which I started just at the end of season 2. And we've been going a couple of months, and oh my gosh, it is just divine. But there is so much that comes up for us in our spring part of our menstrual cycle as well, that really illuminates and speaks back to how we experienced our maiden phase of our lives. So how do we feel about having periods and having this grown-up body? How do we feel about our fertility and having to manage that? How do other people see us? How do we interact with others? What does it mean for you? What did you learn about yourself? What experiences did you have that really formed who you are? And how did you learn to manage and look after your body and care for yourself? To speak your needs, to set boundaries, for sharing and expressing what matters to you. There's so much in there. And I'm sharing this because as in that shamanic approach to that view of the world, all things are so interconnected and all of the cycles are so interconnected. And at this springtime, I just want you to notice how you're feeling right now. Like, how do you feel about spring, the season? Are you so excited after winter? Are you feeling like you've got all this energy bursting and you're just like so joyful? Are you feeling like you just can't wait already for summer, for it to be hot and for it to be, like the middle of the year? Or are you feeling like actually you're like, oh, I don't really want to be leaving winter. I don't really want to be leaving winter. I'm not ready to come out of hibernation. I'm not ready to be seen, to be out in the world, to be busy again. And how does this, if at all, just notice, does this show up in your own inner spring of your menstrual cycle? Does this show up at all for you, these feelings of, actually, I really like bleeding and I really like being slow and in my inner world, and I'm not ready to leave. I don't want to be an adult yet and take on responsibility. I just want to rest. I just want to play. I just want to be in this inward, tender phase. Or are you ready and raring to go and wishing that you could just be super productive, super busy, like out there doing all the things, and that resting and having that slower energy was just a massive inconvenience for you? So just noticing your inner maiden, noticing your inner spring, noticing all of these things. how you're feeling right now about this springtime, and I invite you to honor this point in the calendar year, the solar year, in the Celtic Wheel of the year called Ostara. You might want to gather fresh flowers, make a little oldie for yourself. You might want to make a little nest. You might want to gather a picture of yourself at your maiden time. You might want to honor the light and dark within all things and notice what's calling you to bring balance into it. Also, what's growing for you this year? What are your intentions for the year? What plans are you putting in place? What are you magnetizing, manifesting? What are you expanding? Can you, at this point of the year, invite yourself, call yourself into playfulness, into joy, into wonder at the world, at the beauty and magic? Can you create and play without expectation of results and just enjoy it for the process of it? You might like to beautify. At this time of year, I suddenly feel like wearing my summer dresses already, starting to peel off the layers, starting to beautify myself a little bit more. I feel myself choosing different clothing, doing my hair differently, maybe wearing a bit more makeup than usual. Feel myself sensual and just, delighting in the world. How about you? And if you're in the northern hemisphere, it's that time of Maiden, the complete opposite, the opposite end of the cycle. It's the second harvest festival of the year. It's that time of gathering fruits, of gathering the foods, making stores and reservations ahead of the winter to come. Weeding out, wrapping up, preserving, sharing the fruits. What have you achieved this past year? What are you taking with you and what are you letting go of? And the same question applies really in terms of balance, that light and that dark. What's calling you back into balance? Maybe it's more about letting go to come back into balance. What are you harvesting, taking with you? What are you pickling and preserving? Which seeds are you starting to save to replant the next year? It can seem like, perhaps it's just starting to cool down in the north. Winter can still seem a way away, but it's really time to start preparing now so that you have enough to eat and sustain yourself in that hibernation of winter. So wherever you are in the world, if you're in a climate that doesn't have distinct 4 seasons, what's the weather doing? How do you feel? How does it line up for you? And I just call you to honor your own cyclical nature, to honor and notice that of the world around you and in each other's. And as we embark on season 3 together, what's your intention for deepening your own cycle awareness? How can you honor yourself, your womb, your body, your ebbs and flows, your sovereign power, your wild femininity? What are you open to learning and exploring for yourself? And if there's anything that you would really love me to talk to on this podcast, a topic, a person, I actually want you to let me know. Come and drop me a message on Instagram or drop me an email. You'll find the links in the show notes. Let me know. Because right now this season is a wide open, clean slate, which feels really exciting. Can you hear those birds? It's that time of the year. Beautiful. That feels like a really delicious place to end. So, I give great blessings on Ostara or Maiden, wherever you are. I send you love. And I call you to set an intention for yourself. How are you going to deepen your cycle awareness this season? Can't wait for you to join me for season 3. Thank you for being here. Keep dropping me your messages, letting me know how you're finding this podcast, what your favorite episode is, what you're taking away and learning from it. I always love to hear from you. And I can't wait to journey together through this season, the mother season. Okay. Loads of love. Thank you so much for listening in. If you're loving this podcast and you'd love to help me spread the wisdom shared, please leave a review or rating or share this with somebody who you think would love to listen in. I'm really passionate about creating ripples of change and getting this information to more women, girls, and people with a cycle so that they can reclaim their cyclic natures too. And if you'd love to dive in deeper with learning more about how to connect with your cycle and rites of passages, come and join our free Wild Flow Circle community or choose a course and learn with me on my online learning hub. All the links are in the show notes. And until next time, be well and go with the flow of your cyclic nature.